Hello, I had a total hip replacement last week, and this video is on the bits of art that I've done since then. It's been a bit of a rough week and I haven't been able to concentrate on anything for too long, so I guess the theme of this video is easy art for when you're not feeling up to much. First of all then, I stayed upstairs for a couple of days and my first painting was a Splodge and Scribble based on the house opposite mine. So I just splodged down watercolour in roughly the right areas. And I used my new deep light watercolours for this. You can see this is not a careful process at all. The colours run into each other. You can see some of the nice granulation appearing. For this week I've pulled out an Etcher hot press everyday sketchbook. When the watercolours dry, I draw in the house with a waterproof fine liner. Again, this stage only takes a couple of minutes. And then I go back and layer on a bit more watercolour for areas of more contrast. So nothing amazing, but it was nice to at least play with my paints a bit. And then another day I thought it would be nice just to paint some big bright loose florals. Again, I used my deep light watercolours and I used the mixing area in my art toolkit palette. I was struggling to get comfortable and so I actually painted this one just standing up, and again it only took a couple of minutes. So also again, nothing spectacular, though I did really like this combination of colours. Another thing that's nice to do when you're not feeling particularly creative is just to copy a piece of art. So I'd grabbed some slightly random art supplies from downstairs and settled myself in bed. And I ended up using acrylic markers and distress crayons for this. And I copied the outlines of a quite abstract landscape by Bridget Greenwood, which I'd found on Pinterest, and just gradually filled the different areas in. It was just thoroughly enjoyable to switch my brain off completely and just colour and smudge in the areas. And then I did the same again with another abstract landscape, which I'd found by Ostrau. And here they are with the washi tape removed. I think they turned out to be quite nice little things. I think I feel a pressure to always try and come up with completely original work, using my own photography and sketches as references. But I do find that requires a good degree of work and concentration, so this was a fun little exercise. And then another day I pulled out some FW acrylic ink and then this ruling pen. It's got this little wheel on the top which you can change the width of the nib opening. And I had literally no idea what I was going to do with them. All I knew is that I fancied using them, and so I just started off doodling anything that came into my head. The ruling pen is just a cheapy one that I got off Amazon not that long ago. I had to dip it in quite a lot as I went along, but it was a really enjoyable process. I'm working with the acrylic ink quite thick. I still haven't got any master plan for what this is supposed to look like, and I'm thinking it's looking pretty rubbish at this point. I decided to introduce another colour, and this is FW Fluorescent Pink Acrylic ink. And I guess it's at this point that I think the pattern could look almost plant-like, with the pink bits as flowers, so I add some Paul Rubens fluorescent pink watercolour paint to make actual petals. For me, there's just such a joy in using the art materials in their own right, regardless of what the outcome's going to be. I figure I'd better add some green watercolour as well to be like stems to balance it out a little bit. I used Roman Schmall's Hooker's Green, which matched the ink quite well. I still didn't particularly like the outcome, so I carried on playing around and I added some Rosa Gallery Mint Green watercolour, and I think the pink and the jade green reminded me of quite a few of my clothes in the late 80s. So yeah, this turned out a bit weird and wonderful, but was great fun to do. And then I've been getting out the last couple of days to a bench in this nearby garden of rest. So I thought I'd paint the view. This is another kind of splodge and scribble painting. So I'm starting off by splodging down the watercolour in roughly the right areas. Again, this is in the Etcher Everyday Hot Press sketchbook. So my aim is just to fill in all the block areas of different colours, and then to use other mixed media for details once this is dried. I'll keep most of the watercolour part of this in real time so that you can see how basic and simple what I'm doing is. I started off using a size 12 silver black velvet brush, and a bit later I switched to a size 8 Princeton Neptune. A couple of times along the way I use a heat tool to dry the watercolours. So I then used Tempera paint sticks, which are quite opaque, for some more peaks of sky. Then I splatter some blue paint for some bluebells, and I'm using a Stabilo woody and a Holbein soft white for the flowers. A bit of dark green luminance pencil for grass. And here I'm using a sepia luminance pencil to add some of the finer branches to the trees. I then use a light green Ranger Distress crayon for some highlights in the trees, and then in a bit I've got a dark Distress crayon for the more shadowy areas. I add in some really sunlit areas with the white Tempera paint stick. And then this is me choosing the exact shade purple Lightfast pencil that I want for the shadow areas. And I also add a little bit more purple watercolour for the shadow. So here's the finished thing, and I quite like how it turned out. I think I managed to get the feeling of the dappled light that the place has captured reasonably well. After the half an hour that this took to paint though, I was super uncomfortable and glad to get off the stool. So just a quick flick through of the few things that I've done in the last week. And hopefully it's kind of shown that you don't need to put a huge amount of time or effort or mental energy into having a play around with your art materials and enjoying a bit of colour. I definitely don't think I'm going to be up for anything more arduous than this kind of thing for the next little while. The hip replacements felt pretty brutal, and I think it'll take a while to recover. Thanks very much for watching anyway.